Hello everyone. We're going to look at making flags today in Adobe Illustrator. So what you see now in front of you is actually some past student work. These are examples of this project, a personal flag and a city flag that people worked on, and these were some good ones that I picked out to show what got an A grade. So let's just take a look at those very quickly. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going for. So again, simplicity is one of the five design principles, probably the most important one for designing flags. A limited color palette. You see things like black, white, and pink, this kind of rusty red, gray, and white, green, yellow, dark gray, red, white, black. So a lot of these are going to be in around 3 colors. There's a few, like this one here is around, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I count correctly, but it's done well. This is an example of 4 colors. Some of these that are really great examples of simple, kind of meaningful imagery, good balanced geometric shapes and designs. Some things that are a little more literal, like what looks like a vinyl record or a cat head. Others more symbolic, like stars or stripes, gears, patterns, crosses, things like that. So these are some examples just to use as a reference, but I'm also going to just go ahead and use a new artboard here to start this tutorial. So first off, we need a flag shape. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool. I'm going to turn off the fill, and let's see, we're going to turn on, I'm going to go to my swatches, go to default swatches. We'll just do art and illustration. And for the stroke here, I'm gonna turn on black. Actually, I went over to fill, so I'm gonna switch this over. So it's a 1-point stroke. And if I draw out the rectangle here, I would recommend just whatever dimensions you use for your flag, just use it for both your personal flag and your city flag. So once I've made this is just basically showing a border of what I can kind of base my design and start making the final designs inside. So I have this here, and I'm going to copy and paste it. So Command C and then Command V. So now I have both of them. Don't make them too big. It's nice to have some breathing room, kind of border around the edges on this. This is 11 by 17 artboard. But we do want to have them nice and neat and centered. So you'll notice as I move this around, you see these kind of like pink lines that pop up. This is because I have Smart Guides turned on. This is keyboard shortcut Command U, or you can go up to View and then select Smart Guides. This just can help you kind of align things. When I get it close to the middle, it'll snap to the middle like this. So I know these are now centered in the middle of the artboard. Now if I want to center both of them, let's say I'm giving it enough room underneath one and the other for some text, so you can kind of describe your flags. But if you just select both, you can move them around and give yourself some room to work with. I have both of these shapes on layer 2. Layer 1 is where I had all of these examples, and I locked that layer. So layer 2 has these thin black flag shape borders. I'm also going to use that, or lock that, because that's where we don't want to move those around accidentally. That's just going to kind of be the area in which I'm going to start drawing my design. So with layer 1 and 2 locked, I'm just going to make a new layer. At the bottom here, the little square with a plus symbol, create new layer. I accidentally pressed it twice, so we got layer 3 and layer 4. Now, before we go any further with working in Illustrator, I do want to show a website called coolers.co, and this is a website here that you can find really cool color palettes that other people have made. You can also make your own. So this is just the area where I already see some color palettes that have been produced. And this might give you a good starting point on some great colors that work well for flag design. All right, so I'm gonna choose Vintage Charm as my inspiration, my color palette, and you can click on the three dots here and export the palette as an image, and just export. I'm going to send it. I'm just going to put it on my desktop. And then if I go to Illustrator here, I can go up to File and then Place, and then go to Desktop, and then there's my Vintage Charm. I press Place, I select it. Right now it hasn't placed it yet. I'm just gonna click and drag. That'll be the size of it, and I can just keep it right here for now. So I'm gonna zoom in a bit on this flag and start thinking about how I want to construct some of these shapes. So at this point in learning Illustrator, you probably have a foundational knowledge, and this is where you can get much deeper into shape building. Now, a lot of this will be done with the pen tool, but that's not the only way to build shapes. You have the rectangle tool. I recommend having smart guides turned on so I can snap to that corner. And let's just say I do a very kind of normal 3-column flag design. I'm just gonna, if you hold down Option or Alt on Windows and click and drag, you can duplicate these shapes. So let me just put those in here. And then also if you're moving around, if you hold down Shift, it snaps it in place, so you can see it. While I'm holding Shift, it's moving it perfectly either up and down or at a diagonal. So it's trying to do at right angles. So it helps you keep everything lined up. Let me just go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And for example, very, very simple flag design. I'm going to select this black rectangle here. I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, keyboard shortcut I. So if I have this selected, I press I can select one of these colors. So let's start with the kind of rusty orange. Now I'll click on the middle one. I'll select the kind of maroon color, and then the dark bluish green color. And I have something that looks like a flag. Now, if you don't like the white behind it, I could make another rectangle. I'll just put it here, cover those spaces, and let's say I switch this one to this kind of sandy creamy color. But right now it's in front of those 3 rectangles. So you can move objects on a layer forwards and backwards, in front or behind. Keyboard shortcut on a Mac is Command and left or right brackets. So Command and left bracket pushes it behind other objects, and Command and right bracket pulls it in forward, in front of other objects. You can also right click or control click and go to where it says Arrange and press Send to Back. So now you see that shape is still there. I can move it up, but it appears behind these other shapes. So now it looks like that kind of sandy color instead of the pure white. So right there we have a flag. right? This could have meaningful symbolism, and quite honestly, this is similar to a lot of country flags. A lot of country flags are just like three colors, so stripes or columns, something like that, sometimes diagonal, but they tend to be very simple. Now, I recommend going further, making something a little bit more unique with more interesting imagery. Let me move this back up here. And so, yes, this does function as a flag, but we can improve it still. So I did all of this on layer 4. I'm just going to actually make a new layer above layer 4. I'm going to lock it. And this is where maybe something goes on in the middle, or something on each of these rectangles. Now, you'll notice a lot of people use stars. It's easy. So I'll show you how to use a star just as an example. So it's actually going to be in the same area as the rectangle tool, but you have to click and hold down, and then it brings up these other options. This is how you get to the circle, the ellipse tool, but then there's also the star tool. So I've selected the star tool, and I'm going to click and drag a star. Now I'm not letting go. I am clicked and I'm holding down and I'm dragging it around. You can see I can adjust the rotation and the scale with my mouse. As I'm holding down, you can also adjust how many points the star has. So I'm using my up and down arrow keys. So as I press the up key, it's adding more points or taking away points. So let's just say the star, there's something 4 symbolic, maybe if this is a personal flag, 4 times in my life that are important to me, and the 4 points on the star represent those 4 events. So I put that here, and then maybe there's another shape. Let's try, instead of the star, we'll go to the polygon tool. So similar, we got a hexagon, but as I use the arrow keys, I can, let's say, make like a triangle. And then let's do one more. We'll do the ellipse. And actually, let's just do something a little bit different. I'm going to duplicate and move these. And so instead of just having those stripes on the flag, now we have these symbols that start to, hint at something more. It gives us a little more meaning, a little more symbolism. Now you'll notice with these 3 circles, they're not quite centered perfectly. So instead of me going one by one, trying to move them around, I'm actually going to group these 3 so that I can move them all together with one click. So with my selection tool, I'm going to make a selection box over them so all 3 are selected, and I can move them all together now as they're all selected, but I'm going to still group them, which you can go to Edit, Object and Group, or keyboard shortcut Command G. Now, anytime, I don't have to select all of them. I can just click on one, and they're all selected, and now I can center them. So that's the using groups. Okay, so just right there we have a lot more meaningful symbolism. The flag is much more interesting. It kind of tells a story. It kind of begs us to ask, what do these shapes mean? Now, you'll notice as you're making your flags, what really matters, don't worry about getting too complicated. In fact, you don't want to be complicated. What matters is having everything nice and neat, organized, balanced, even, symmetrical, whatever it is. That's what makes it look more polished, more professional. If things are like awkward sizes or they're not quite lined up, that's what looks amateurish, to be honest. Okay, so we got the shapes there. I'm going to take off the triangle. Actually, no, I'm just going to make it smaller for now. Next up, we're going to look at the rotate tool. Okay, so keyboard shortcut R brings up the rotate tool, and you'll notice and it's hard to see, there's like a bright light blue kind of like crosshairs right there. Wherever I click with the rotate tool, it's going to have, that's the axis around where the object will rotate. So if I click here and I click on my triangle, you notice it's rotating automatically around that point. So if I put it closer, it rotates around this way, further away, it goes like this. Alright, so for this project, it is often helpful to take shapes you've made and rotate them, building up these layers into something that's more interesting. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take this triangle, and instead of just clicking to move this anchor point around, I'm going to hold down Option, or again Alt on Windows, and somewhere, let's just say right here, I'm going to hold down Option, then I'm going to click. When I do that, it opens up this menu, the rotate menu. This is where I can rotate and duplicate all these triangles around a circle, which will end up building something that, in this case with a triangle, probably will look like a flower or a sun or something. So this is a preview. If you know how many times you want the triangle, just in this case it's triangle, it can be any shape, but in this case if you know how many times you want the triangle to be duplicated around a circle, let's say in this case I'll do it 15 times. I can type in 360, that's how many degrees are in a circle, divided by 15. And then instead of pressing OK, don't press OK, press copy. And you notice it copied it. But now we want to duplicate that copy. So we press Command D or Control D on Windows. So I put in for 15 times. I know I wanted 15 triangles. So right now we have 3. I'm just going to go on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And that's how you get a perfect rotation where every object, in this case triangles, is rotated a perfect amount, and you don't have to do that manually. This is another example where these are still individual layers, and if I were to click on one, it could be accidentally moved around. So Command Z is how you undo an action. So I put it back. This is another example where I'm going to select all of these, press Command G to group. So now I can move them all together. So before I had the triangle in my flag design, and now I have something like the sun. Much more interesting. Might be a little too big, so I'm just going to scale it down. Make sure you hold down Shift, and I'm also holding down Option, because if you don't hold down Option, it will scale this way, which is fine. You just have to move it. So I'm just going to hold down Shift and Option. It keeps everything, the scaling constrained, gets it a little closer to the size that I want it. Okay, that's the rotate tool. Now, next up is the align tool. So we want all of these to be perfectly aligned horizontally. So I'm going to actually purposefully make them not aligned. The align tool is going to be your best friend for getting things perfectly lined up, perfectly spaced, horizontally, vertically, with a selection or the whole artboard. So let's take a look at that now. If you don't see anything, you have to go up to Window and then click on Align. So now we have the Align window. So I'm going to click and select these 3 shapes. Now, remember, I have the flag, the orange, maroon, and dark bluish green color. I have that on this layer 4. It's locked. So that's why when I selected this, it didn't select these other rectangles. It just selected these shapes that I made because they're on layer 5, and layer 5 is not locked. Okay, so I have them selected, and I have my align window open. You have to make sure it's set to align to selection because I've made a selection of these 3 objects. And I'm going to go to vertical align center. So it's going to, it kind of has a little illustration here where they're lined up across horizontal axis. So I press that, and now it snaps them into place, and now they are perfectly lined up with each other. And then if you, let me just show an example. I'm going to ungroup these circles here. Command-Shift-G to ungroup. Let's just say I have them kind of all over the place. I want to align them, and I want to distribute them with perfectly even spacing from one to the next. I'll actually even just add 2 more as an example. So I'm going to select these 5 circles, click on horizontal align center, and now they're perfectly aligned top to bottom. But you'll see the spacing is not even. Some of them are these large spaces, others do not. This is where I go to distribute and go to vertical distribute center. And now they are perfectly aligned top to bottom and perfect spacing in between. And I'll press Command G again to group them. Alright, that's the align tool. Now, obviously I use a lot of kind of simple shapes here. If you want something more custom, let's say a city flag, you're using something like a symbol of a hammer or something, which is common, especially in a city that's known for their iron and steel industry. So I'm going to delete this 4-pointed star. I'm going to go to the pen tool. Keyboard shortcut P. And this is where, if you have an idea for the shape you want, you can just start freehanding it. If you need to import a reference, a reference image that you can trace, by all means do that. I know I'm going to just do a simple hammer, so I'm going to click here, across, and a little tip is that if you hold down Shift, it keeps your points lined up to 45-degree angles, whereas if I don't hold it down, it can accidentally kind of be a diagonal. So I'm going to hold down Shift, I'm going to move this around. This is going to be a very simplified version of a hammer, but that's okay. That's the whole point of a flag. Okay, now you'll notice this side here did not get lined up right. So you might still have to go in with your direct selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, and I'm going to click on these anchor points, and with my smart guys turned on, it hopefully will start snapping things in place. It seems to actually not be working, but we can get close and fix. You can also select multiple anchor points. I click on one and hold down Shift, then I can click on the second one, and now I can move these together. I can also move them with my arrow keys on my keyboard. So this is how you can kind of get a lot closer just by moving like 1 point at a time with your arrow keys. Alright, let's see. I'm going to make this a little bit larger, maybe a little bit longer here. Alright, so I have my symbol for the hammer. I'll just scale it down. So this is using the pen tool. Again, keep your shapes simple. Don't try to make your shapes look like photographs. They're supposed to be very clear, simple symbols of these ideas and interests you might have for your personal flag or symbols for the city that you're working on. Okay. Next up, we're going to look at the Pathfinder tool. So there's other ways to build shapes without these tools or the pen tool. We're going to look at a classic one. So we have the sun, and I'm going to delete the hammer, and we're going to make a moon. So if I could make a moon shape with a pen tool. If I was going to do this quickly, maybe get something like this. And I'm just going to do this very quickly so you can see. But what you'll notice is that I would have to go back in and fix some things. So I just made it quickly, but it's a little bit wonky, a little uneven. It's not a great kind of perfect crescent moon. I absolutely could go and do this manually. It takes longer and it probably still won't be perfect. So there's other ways to build these shapes. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go to my ellipse tool, which is making circles, and I'm going to make 2 circles. See this size, and I'm going to hold down Option to drag it down, duplicate it, and now I'm going to use my Pathfinder window. If you don't see it here, go to Window and click on Pathfinder. Now, shapes that you make, these vector shapes, they're constructed from paths and anchor points. These points that define the shape by how the path is curved or straight, connecting these different points, right? So if I go to my path view, you don't have to worry about this, but if I go to my path view, I can see these paths that are making up all these different shapes that I'm working with. And it's a little easier to see it this way, but if I overlap these 2 circles, you'll notice it actually creates this crescent moon shape. So let me go back to this. I know I can't see it right now because they're the same color. If I actually be a little bit easier if I change the color just so it's easier to see. I see this crescent shape here. But I need the Pathfinder window to be able to basically cut out the shape of the circle that's in front, right now the green one. So I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to go to minus front. When I do that, it cuts out the path from that green circle out of the one in the back and leaves me with this perfect crescent moon shape that I can then, let's say, rotate. And now I kind of have a astronomical theme going. I got moon, sun, maybe like planets lined up or something. I did not plan that. I promise. That just kind of just happened. So this is how it's a much faster, better way of making a moon shape than trying to do it manually with the pen tool. So you just kind of have to think about how you could build up these shapes by stacking them, overlapping them in different ways. I'm going to put this back. There's other options here. You can play around with them. If I selected them, for example, and I did unite instead of minus front, actually let me move them apart a little bit more. If I selected them, pressed unite, now it's no longer 2 circles. It's just this one kind of like snowman shape in a way. And I can go back here. I'm not sure why I would like this, but maybe it's like a peanut or something, or something like the letter 8, like an infinity symbol or something. I'm not sure. So I actually like the moon way better. So I'm just undoing all of that. So this is how you can start building up these shapes to make your flags. It should be a simple process. It should go relatively quickly. You don't have to overcomplicate this. Use a nice color palette, very basic, simple colors, simple shapes that have a lot of symbolism and meaning. And then once you're done, take the type tool and just describe the concepts behind your flags. Use a nice clean font and then export this artboard as a JPEG image. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and that should get you along the way, making a really kind of beautiful, simple, powerful flag design.